Last time we discussed the Isser of Negia, which is all forms of touching, passing things to each other, throwing things to each other, even carrying things together should be avoided. However, we said B'shas Harchak, if there's nobody else around and you really need to carry this thing together, then it would be mutter in that situation. We also discussed the situation where a couple is flying together. They should make sure that the seats that they're getting are not right next to each other. Unless it's two aisle seats, then there's no problem. There's no chash that you're going to come to a Negia. Or you can just make sure that there's a seat in between you, which you'll put a child or put a bag, and that would be okay. Now, when it comes to eating, we know that you have to have a heker between the couple. So when we're talking about heker, there's generally three rules. Number one is that there has to be a certain height to the heker. So a ring or a pen or a credit card, that's not going to work. It doesn't have enough height. Number two is that it has to be something that's not normally on the table. So if normally you do not have a salt shaker or a napkin holder on the table, you could just put the salt shaker on the table and that will serve as a heker. Number three is that it has to be between the couple. It can't be at the end of the table where it's not really even noticeable. It has to be noticeable between the couple. So these are the three general rules when we're dealing with heker. Now there's a nice little heter. If let's say normally you have a salt shaker on the table, but it stays at the end of the table. Or if you have a napkin holder and it normally stays at the end of the table, you can go and move that to between each other, and that way that will serve as a good heker. Also, if we know that when you're eating basar v'chalav, so if let's say the husband's eating milchiks and the wife's eating fleishiks, we know that you have to have a heker on that table. So if the heker on that table will be good enough also to serve as the heker for nida. Another heker that we can use is mats. If normally you do not eat with mats, so during nida you can eat with mats, and that will serve as a heker. Now this also applies to even a small snack that you want to share together at the table. It doesn't have to be a whole suda that you need the heker, but even if you're just sitting down to a Danish or a bag of chips, or you're just sitting down together for a drink, you need to have a heker at the table. Now there's a big shiloh about when you're eating with other people at the table, do you need a heker in that situation? So there's certainly a makom to be machmer. However, the minig is to be mekel in that situation and not require a heker. However, that is only if the other people are sitting at the same table as you. But if it's just you and your wife at this table, even though there's a lot of other people around, you would need a heker. So for example, you go out to a restaurant together and it's just you and your wife at the table, even though there's a lot of other people around, you're still going to need a heker in that situation. You're not allowed to eat from your wife's leftovers. However, a wife is allowed to eat from her husband's leftovers. So how can a husband get around this? How is he able to eat from his wife's leftovers? So there's a few different ways. Number one is if he just simply puts the stuff from her, the food from her plate or from her cup into his cup or into his plate. So that will work, but that will only work if it's not recognizable what she was eating before. So if let's say you have rice or spaghetti, you can't really tell that she was eating from it before, you put it onto your plate, that's going to be mutter. But if let's say it's a piece of chicken, then a piece of chicken is very clear that it was her piece of chicken, she ate half of it, you're not allowed to just put it onto your plate and eat it. That would be a problem of eating her leftovers. Also, if she is not in the room, then you would also be allowed to eat her leftovers. Not a good idea to suggest that she leaves the room so you can eat leftovers, but in case she's not in the room, then you can eat her leftovers. Also, if let's say a husband comes in and there's a few plates on the table and he doesn't know which one's his wife's, he's allowed to eat from anyone that he wants, and the wife is not mechuyev to tell him which one is hers so that he will not eat her leftovers. So she's not mechuyev to tell him which plate is hers. We also know that there's another isser of eating from the same plate together. Now, there's a big machlokes haposkim is this only when it comes to a plate or a portion which two people do not usually share. So if it's a portion that normally two people do not share, then that's for sure also to eat from the same plate. Because that obviously the only reason why you're eating it from it together is because you're very close, and that we have to stay away from things like that. So let's say you have a very big bowl of popcorn or a big bowl of potato chips, and it's just you and your wife, and it's something that normally two people eat from, even if they're not so close and they don't know each other so well. That's a big machlokes haposkim, and therefore the easy eitzah out of this is that if the wife would just take a scoop of the popcorn or the potato chips and put it onto her plate, that wouldn't be a problem of her eating out of the bowl, and there would not be any shiloh of eating from her leftovers. However, if let's say you're having a big party and there's a lot of people around eating from the same bowl of popcorn and potato chips, then it would be mutter to eat from that same bowl together. Also, if let's say the portion is something that is very small, that everybody knows that it's only for one person, that would be usher for a husband and a wife to share as well.